Aurelio, obviously the disappointment of a winning run snaps, but how did you see the actual 90 minutes unfold out there?
Look, I think that first half was clear that we missed that little bit of match rhythm. That's 3 weeks. It's quite a while. So we were off a little bit in terms of our pressure. Our pressure from the front two was quite poor. And so when that's not great, you have issues in the second line and third line, etc. So we were trying to actually get them to be a little bit more aggressive. And we did that in the second half. We had to adjust a couple of things, but it starts from there. We weren't really in too much danger. They played quite a few balls direct in behind, so we were waiting for that anyway. And then in the second half, we had a lot of good opportunities that just lacking that little bit of edge in the front. I think we had probably, 4 or 5 decent chances where generally we should be scoring those.
I mean, you're obviously missing a lot of players from that front line that you would have at the start of when you started pre-season would have been banking on Lecky, Tilio, Naboots, yep, Max Caputo. How much of that maybe lack of killer edge do you think they'd be bringing if they were available?
Well, there's some significant players in the front third who are missing, so we haven't used that as an excuse. It's given opportunities for Mamedi, Kavian, Rachmani tonight. Harry Politi has probably played more minutes in this season than he did last. So, sure, a lot of moments, and because the game is full of critical moments, and some of those moments that we had today, probably a cool head probably would have adjusted, and we weren't able to manage that.
On the subject of critical moments, Milanovic wins the penalty. What did you make of it? Have you seen the replay? What do you think about it?
I haven't seen the replay, but I would think there was a clear deviation off Callum's right foot before they collided. So I don't know, maybe rules have changed, but I would have thought he had first contact even before he had contact with the ball and deviated it before they had the contact. So I thought it wasn't a penalty, but obviously we know what the outcome was, so that was very strange.
Did you also feel that maybe the contact was forced a bit? Like, it seemed to me that Talbot was sort of just holding his ground a bit.
Well, he was holding his ground and ran into him. So, but I thought clearly the ball deviated off his right foot. So I would have thought he had first contact with the ball before they collided, so it shouldn't have been a penalty. But it was overruled.
With Lex, what happened with him?
He... I'm sick of saying these things. He just felt a little twinge at the back of his knee during the week. So, again, he pushed back. I don't know. We're hoping to have him back next week or in the next couple of weeks. So, it's just a day-by-day thing. And it's unfortunate because, to be honest, he's had about approximately 5 weeks where he's just been getting rhythm, been able to finish most of his training sessions. He's had the last couple of games that he's come off and shown what he can do. So it was a bit disappointing that happened.
Obviously, he's had a lot of these niggles over your time here as City coach. Are they all related to each other, or is there something underlying which he's playing through, or has he just been, has he walked underneath the ladder and passed a black cat as of late?
It's a good question. Look, he's had a long career. There's no question about that. He's not 23. He's actually 33. So his body has been over the journey. If you think about when he started to going to Germany, you think about all the national games that he's played, all the flights. There is a hell of a lot of load that has gone into his body, and he loves contact, If he receives the ball, generally someone's up his backside, and he just loves the contact, so he's always going into duels. And maybe that's a byproduct of where he is at this point of time. But we're still very confident that he's able to get himself onto the pitch and get some really good minutes this season.
He's mentioned recently that it could be like a week-by-week thing with Lecky throughout the season. Is that pretty much how you expect it to be?
For Leck, sorry?
It seems like for this season it'll probably be a week-to-week thing in terms of management. Is that pretty much how you see how you go with Lecky this season?
Yeah, he's gone through periods through the pre-season where he had 3 or 4 weeks, and then he's had a little bit of a setback, and then he's got himself going again, and he's had, again, as I said, this last period was another 5 weeks, and he has had another little setback. They are not serious setbacks, so I think if you wanted to say that's positive, it is in a way, but obviously it's clear the difference he makes when we have him in the team. It's clear the difference Anandi Nabu has. It's clear, although Max Caputo was going to be our regular number 9, but he brings a point of difference. So most teams have injuries to some important players. We probably have a few more, but as I said, we're not using that as an excuse. We're using that as a challenge for us, a challenge for our younger players who always want to play, so they have the opportunity to play. And now they're finding out, you know, what it is to be a professional footballer and what it is to compete on a level that every week it's tough. The competition's not easy, and the competition throws you different challenges, and they're growing. So I always think back to, you know, when I was making my debut, or, you know, I was 17 or 18 or 19, you just have moments. You know, there's going to be a couple of games where you're going to be flying, and then the next day someone's going to smack you in the chops, and you know, you're going to regress a little bit, and then we just got to nurture them through this period. We have no doubt that those guys will be fine players for the club, and potentially fine players somewhere else, overseas potentially. So it's a bit of a work in progress. Of course, everyone wants your best team, the most experienced players, but it is what it is, and we're not running away from the challenge.
One of those younger players, Mambedi, he seemed to really get himself into many positions today. Obviously, he couldn't score, but is that a positive that he was really like in the thick of the action quite a lot, wasn't he?
Yeah, look, he's one that, you know, you'd probably use the term loosely, the potential. He has something that is different from others, and he was probably a little bit unlucky because some of those things that fell for him that he didn't actually quite take in that, especially in that second half. On a different day, potentially he would have had a couple of goals. So he's got to just keep working. He's learning the game. It's hard work because there's a lot of effort in the way we want to play, and he's 17 years old. So if you know his history, he was playing in the under-21s last year, under-21s, and then he played NPL. We play in the NPL 2, and he played about a dozen games in NPL 2, and all of a sudden he's leading the line at A-League, at senior level. That's not an easy thing to do, but he's got a pretty cool temperament, and he's going to go through waves. It's quite normal. All we can do again is encourage him and support him, and he's definitely going to take the next step. And again, he's one that will definitely be a fine player.
What do you make of Aziz's return match? He seemed to, Milanovic seemed to get the better of him in the first half, but he seemed to really respond well in the second half. Was very creative.
Yeah, I think part of that because Milanovic loves to come inside and create an extra man in the midfield, and depends how far and how deep he travels into the midfield, makes it a little bit trickier than for your fullbacks. But again, that was all because of our lack of pressure in the front third. And in the second half, we controlled most of the game without really having an edge. We had moments there where, you know, we're on the edge of the box and we're not shooting, and just small things that were happening just automatically. Today, for whatever reason, potentially, you know, I think we maybe were overthinking some moments. You know, Stevie had an opportunity on the edge of the box where he just didn't pull the trigger. 2 weeks ago against Perth, he hit one from 35. So some things today that just weren't working or coming off automatically. And again, potentially it was a little bit more of the flow or the rhythm since we haven't played in 3 weeks, because we didn't have any games in that period. There was no internal trials. We just trained. We trained hard, and we trained in preparation for this game. And in terms of the way we prepped for this game, most of those outcomes or those things that happened in the game were coming off, but we were a little bit late to some challenges. We were late to pressing from our front third. We were late to shuffle and shift across. So just those things that come with rhythm. So I expect next week that should be much, much better. And again, the challenge next week is we're going to a difficult place, Brisbane, humid weather, bigger pitch. So, it's another challenge that we have to be prepared for. And it's a short week for us as well, because, we will have a training session tomorrow, a day off after that, so they'll recover. 3 training sessions and we're ready to play.
In the first half, was for the first time this season, Western Sydney actually had more possession than you guys. So were you expecting that approach from Western Sydney, sort of come here and try to control the ball?
I think a lot of it, and that was a little bit us as well, a lot of it was, and I don't know what it was percentage-wise, but a lot of it was in your own half. So it was fluff, if you want to call it fluff, but nothing without, really hurting you. I think when you look at, I think we were the same as well, because we weren't proactive. We weren't looking forward. All our training sessions are always based on just moving the ball forward, vertical, as quickly as possible. And today, I don't think their pressure was great. Their pressure was fantastic, but we were, brave or not proactive, definitely not proactive. Everything was sideways, everything was backwards, and that's not us. That's not the way that we want to play. And I think in the second half, that obviously had changed, because I think most of the passes would have been in our front half or in our half of the pitch in that second half.
Yeah. And just interesting on Nathaniel Atkinson today, sort of played more left wing, saw him subbed on at right back. Obviously, he's maybe been used in that position due to injuries, but where do you maybe see him long term for the side? Will it be on the wing? Will it be as a fullback? What do you say?
Could be in goal soon. He's our polyvalent. He's a guy who, a little bit like I think I mentioned during the week, he's a guy that, yes, he's naturally suited to right back. He can play left back, which he has already. He has played as an 8 in midfield for us. Today we thought with his creativity, he's a good dribbler, he's a good passer. We thought putting him up there, he'd be able to help in the front third. There's a guy like Steve Ugargovic in a way. There are guys like Steve. He can play a number of positions. He can play right back if he had to. If we needed him to play as a 6, he can play as a 6. If we need him to play as a central defender, he absolutely can do that. And I think it's important that you have that little bit of flexibility with a couple of players in your squad.
Aurelio, obviously you're going to be disappointed. Got to come in somewhere. You're going to be disappointed with his scoreline, a bit of a smash and grab and a classic away team performance. But given you haven't played for 3 weeks, given all the outs you've got, where do you see, the team sort of positioned going forward? You're going to get these players back. You'll get one of the upsides is you get young players getting experience. I mean, is it all going to come together perhaps for the second half of the season rather than the first?
Well, I think more time. We're 5 games into the season, so there's still a lot of football to be played. And the more, especially for the young kids, the more rhythm they get, the more games they get, the more experience, the wiser you become. So I just expect us to get better. I think we got a couple of guys, our foreigners, for example, they've missed a little bit of rhythm as well, coming in late. Jonna and Andreas, for example. And Andreas missed 4 or 5 days a couple of weeks ago. So they're not really have hit their straps. We're seeing glimpses. Even Andreas today, he did some great things in the front third. But again, he needs more rhythm. Jonna needs more rhythm. And they're also getting used to something that probably doesn't happen. Maybe with Andreas with the weathering, because he came from Greece, but the hot weather, sometimes the humidity today, it wasn't easy conditions. You saw also Western Sydney, they were also run off their feet. But in terms of our fitness is definitely there. It's getting better. Now we don't have a break. Actually, the games come very quickly for us. So we will improve as the weeks go by, and those young kids are definitely going to get more experience. But I'm also a realist and understand that with the young players in the team, you're going to have the dips. It's quite natural. So again, we have to encourage them, we have to nurture them, and all we asking is that they just with everyone, we work pretty consistently, very consistently on a weekly basis. So it's not that we're throwing foreign things at them. The way we want to play, the way we want to defend, all the rest of those things that they're learning on a daily basis, and they're just physically going to get better and stronger in time. And with experience, they're going to be absolutely fine. Just the dips in performances, we're trying to keep that, and to be honest, we were probably just a little bit rusty, I would say, today. But the performance was, what can I say? The effort was definitely there. We just lacked a little bit of our stuff in the final third. So we're trying to keep whatever our best to our worst. The golf has to be so minute, and it can't last for a long time. And we're trying to do that as a team, but also we're trying to do that with the young kids as well.